With Strauss-Kahn's resignation, the stage is now set for the battle to succeed him, a battle to be waged by people our friend Terry Keeley knows very well, members of the multilateral power structure. Terry is the senior managing principal at Sovereign Trends and advisor to central banks and foreign governments. He's also a contributing editor here at Bloomberg. So, Terry, you know how things are shaping up. Sarah was just talking about it. Christine Lagarde, perhaps. Kemal Dervish, the former finance minister from Turkey, a very well-known figure on the international stage, powerful within the Brookings Institution. How does it play out?
There's a number of very qualified candidates. I don't think you'll find a more qualified candidate than Christine Lagarde, Erik. So it's no surprise that she's coming to the fore. Probably Axel Weber's name will also come into the play from the Europeans. But what a shame it would be if this process is going to exclude all the other possibilities in the developing world. And
like whom?
Well, there's a large number. You've seen some of the names as well. There's the finance minister of Singapore, Tarman, that's been mentioned. I quite like the idea of putting a woman in charge of the IMF, not least because it's Frau Merkel that we're going to have to convince about any debt deal that we have to get done in Europe. But the issue really is not just Europe. And I have a great deal of sympathy for the view that's been expressed that putting a European in charge of solving the European debt crisis may actually stack the deck the wrong way. After all, it was the Europeans who solved the Asian debt crisis. There's a lot of people in Asia who have quite a lot of experience, Erik, in dealing with debt crises. And of course, it is in the long-term interest of the IMF to have Asia more on board.
But let's talk about Christine Lagarde for a moment.
Sure.
Against the possibility of a Turkish or perhaps an Asian contender, she's female.
Yep.
That helps in this context. Is she the only person, because of her expertise in finance, because of her standing within the G20, because of the fact that she's female, who could stand up to the pressure from emerging markets for somebody from their world to run the IMF?
Madame Lagarde has a great deal of credibility. I think that she would do extremely well in the job. You'll hear me say nothing but positive things about Christine Lagarde's candidacy. What is the problem, Erik, is to have that be a fait accompli. Let this be a very open process. Let this be a competitive process. I'll give you 3 Asian women names, for example. Madame Shamila Gopinath, who's the Deputy Governor of Reserve Bank of India, who has spent a considerable amount of time at the IMF, should be a candidate. Dr. Zedi, who's a very capably run the Bank Negara of Malaysia, the Central Bank of Malaysia, should be on a list. And I have a great deal of interest and sympathy for a Chinese candidate, and I would put together Madame Hu Zhaolin, who is the Deputy Governor of the People's Bank of China, who has also written extensively on international affairs. We need to have someone with some of the same gifts that Dominique Strauss-Kahn had, which is incredible intellectual capability, persuasiveness, but also, Erik, the full support of the international community.